How does one describe Troublemaker Petrichor ink? I love this ink. It's very hard to describe. You could look at it and say that it was a grey violet, but at times it can be green. It can be blue. It shades, it breaks, it varies in colour. It depends on the paper you put it on. It depends on the thickness of the ink. But it is just a beautiful, muted, variable shade. In the prior demonstrations of the development of this artwork, I'd used black and a grey and a warm chestnut brown, and the warm chestnut brown was also a shading ink, and where it varied as you diluted it with water or it went on very thin, it was almost a red violet, a muted red violet. And this Troublemaker Petrichor ink is almost a muted blue-violet to green. So lovely contrast of luminous greys. If I'm using these muted colours in the shadows, it means that the shadows within this dog's fur won't be boring. They won't be bright, shrieking colours that jump out at you and look unnatural, but there'll be a lovely luminous to the greys, and that will work really well because the colour of the dog is gold and apricot tones. It's called an apricot cavoodle, but she's got a lot of creamy golden tones, so there'll be a lot of lovely light bright colours, and to have these interesting colour shadings in the greys, these lovely muted luminous greys, just will offset the bright golden apricot creams of the highlighted parts of the dog. So I think this is a really good choice of colours put together, a split colour harmony. Creating an artwork isn't just about the technique of applying the paint or the ink or the drawing sketch materials. It's understanding what makes a good painting. You've got the composition. It's important to have a good composition. If you're creating a drawing of a dog, what you're after isn't a line drawing. In a way, you're trying to capture the personality, the spirit, you look at it and it's like you can see the dog looking at you, feel its mood. It's not just the drawing of the dog. And then you've got the colour harmony. So as I said, in this case I'm working for a split colour harmony, and then you've got the light and shade. So you want a good contrast of light and shade. You want to go from the darkest dark possible, and you want to go to the brightest lights. And then something that's important to me is the integrity of the work. Integrity covers a wide range of things. If I was to sell this work, which I don't sell my work anymore, I'm fully retired as a professional artist. I do artwork for myself now. But if you are selling your work, the cost of your materials should be reflected within the cost of the work. As I said, this is acid-free, high quality watercolor paper. If I was to sell it, I would have to tell my customer that this is created with inks and it is not permanent ink, and therefore this work is really only suitable for being in a journal. It is not suitable for hanging on the wall as an archival work. If I was to sell it in a frame to hang on the wall, I would need to tell my customer that the work would fade. This is integrity of the artist. You need to be aware of, will your work last? The average person buying an artwork is going to assume the work is going to last, and it's up to the artist to be very honest and knowledgeable about their materials. So I've created this to go in an art journal, so it doesn't matter that this is being done with a dye-based ink and not a permanent ink. No way will a permanent ink or permanent paints break in colour like this beautiful petrichor. So some of these beautiful dye-based inks will create wonderful shading that you cannot get with your more permanent pigments. So there's an advantage to using your dye-based inks for artistic reasons in your art journals. And that's what I'm mainly creating these days, is works for art journals. I'm creating this on a folded piece of the Artistico Fabriano watercolor paper, and once I've created a number of these folded sheets, I will be binding these together and creating a watercolor art journal. Now, the art materials that I'm working with, at the moment I'm working with a Franceville brand. 288 is the number of the brush, and it's a Taclon, which is a synthetic, made in Sri Lanka, and it's 1/2 inch wide, and it has a hake finish, which means the brush head is variable in length, and that's just wonderful for putting on fur where you don't want a solid brush stroke. If you work very lightly, you can create very fine, hairy lines. It was a relatively inexpensive brush, if not one that I use very often. It just suited this purpose a lot better than my more expensive watercolor brushes. The fountain pen I'm using, if you notice, has got a special edition black nib. It's a 14 karat gold nib, and it's on an all black Lamy Studio fountain pen. Well, happy creativity!